crab's claws, while not as powerful as the lobsters, are still great at crushing and grabbing other players, something even Mr. Krabs uses to his advantage at times.
Mr. Krabs made someone unwatch a show. That nigga made someone unwatch a show. That nigga sold his employee to the devil for 62 cents. It's too much. Ladies and gentlemen, does that say the SpongeBob character tier list?
This video was made in partnership with Curiosity
No,
Stream.
it wasn't! So canonically, who is the Pearl? Gotta be Pearl. Canonically speaking, Pearl or Squidward? Because Squidward's a squid and Pearl is a big ass whale, right? Now, obviously, you want to get into the power scaling. Give SpongeBob a shoestring and it's over.
I've been trying to figure out how to do an ocean tier list or fish tier list for a while now, but the problem is there's just too many potential builds to include in a single video.
Right.
So what better way to do it than to artificially restrict the scope of the video to the most well-known fictional server of all, Bikini Bottom.
Ah, okay, I like those. Let's go.
While not a real place, the characters are based on real animals that have their own special abilities and signature moves, some of which even affect the plot of individual SpongeBob episodes. So which residents of Bikini Bottom and their real-life counterparts are the best in the current Coral Reef meta?
Talk to me.
As always, we'll start from the bottom and move up from there.
And
so in F tier, we have the underwater squirrel build.
So Sandy's just like a one-of-one squirrel build, which is kind of true. If Sandy was just dumb, she'd be dead. But Sandy's like a f***ing genius, so there we go. Works, fair, cool.
Now don't get me wrong, I don't think squirrels are bottom tier in the arboreal meta. They have one of the highest mobility bonuses in the game in forests, and their teeth deal bonus damage to structures.
Yeah, this is easy. Anyone disagreeing with that, you're playing it too literal to the power skill stuff. This is about Sandy Cheeks being a squirrel underwater, not Sandy Cheeks being the weakest animal in Bikini Bottom. You know what I'm saying? Hold on, have to sneeze. All right, let's go.
Making them excellent at bending wooden environments to their will, both in forests and suburbs. However, in the reef meta, squirrels are absolutely bottom tier, and this is evidenced by Sandy's many obvious difficulties overcoming pretty basic properties of an underwater playthrough. Sandy's powerful regenerating teeth, while normally a major asset, would actually be a huge liability in an underwater playthrough. Not only are they unable to deal any damage when stuck behind a glass helmet, but regenerating teeth eventually start to deal damage to the player when they go unused for a long time. So Sandy being forced to wear a suit for most of her playthrough is hugely detrimental. The rest of Sandy's stats are solid, but they're contingent more on her suit than anything else. For example, she's got really high defense due to her armor, but a single hit strong enough to crack her armor would easily mean game over for her.
Yeah, and furthermore, this is about Sandy specifically now, rather than the squirrel. So I agree, yeah. The underwater squirrel is F, yeah, easy. Next.
Meaning she essentially has an HP of 1.
Sandy literally bodied all of Karate Island. Yeah, you're missing the point. Wait, I'm glad you said that, not because I want to slander you, but that's kind of exactly what we're getting at. You trying to get off that Sandy is not F tier is a no. Sherlock. Nobody thinks Sandy is the weakest character in Bikini Bottom. But the underwater squirrel is definitely, like, if Sandy had, like, tots in it, well, she probably does have a tot episode, funny enough. But you know what I mean? Like, if underwater squirrels were common, you know what I mean? Because they don't walk around with suits, so they just die and go extinct the second. Like, you drop 20 squirrels underwater, they just die. So, yeah.
Other best stat is that she's got high intelligence, but there are far better intelligence builds to play in the reef meta, so her tier placement remains low. I don't want to waste too much time discussing the underwater squirrel build, since it's the most unrealistic build in Bikini Bottom. So let's move on to D tier, where we have the ocean snail build. Now, there are ocean snails that I consider high tier, like the cone snails, which have venomous spears. However, it's pretty clear that Gary is not one of these, and is instead a much more basic jack-of-all-trades style snail.
Okay.
Sea snails have exceptionally high defense levels.
What about Rocky?
But not much else. They're nearly invincible while in their defensive stance, except against players with armor-piercing abilities. But, as we'll see, those abilities aren't uncommon in the reef meta, and as a result, sea snails have bad matchups against much of the rest of this list.
Yeah, I agree. Gary's
in C tier, we have the Crustaceans, which seem to comprise a large percentage of the Bikini Bottom player base.
I would say Plankton's D tier, no? How is Plankton above Gary, though? Because Plankton in Bikini Bottom is just like food for like everyone.
Including Mr. Krabs, Larry, and Plankton.
Yeah,
and yes, Plankton is most likely a type of copepod, which is a small crustacean. All three of these take the basic crustacean build and modify it for their own specific playstyle. Mr. Krabs sticks pretty close to the basic crustacean build, maintaining high defensive stats with relatively low.
I guess he's trying to get off that. In canonically, they wouldn't see Plankton, so he'd be fine. Maybe, I guess.
Ability. The crab's armor is great at blocking most attacks, although again, armor-piercing abilities are fairly prevalent in the reef meta, so it's certainly not a foolproof strategy. The crab's claws, while not as powerful as the lobsters, are still great at crushing and grabbing other players, something even Mr. Krabs uses to his advantage at times. The lobster...
Mr. Krabs made someone unwatch a show. People keep trying to find is Blank cheaper than Mr. Krabs, and I always say, bro, Mr. Krabs, bro, stop. Mr. Krabs, the cheapest thing in fiction history. Stop trying to find someone else. You can name feats. I'm really not gonna hear you. I'm ignorant a little bit. I ain't gonna lie. That made someone unwatch a show. That showed his employee to the devil for 62 cents. It's too much. It's way too much. Then underspent soda, bro. Thank you, chat. Like it's crazy.
Is a more offensive take on the crustacean build,
nuts.
Having claws that can deal devastating damage in a single pinch or swing. In the show, we see Larry depicted as the strongest Bikini Bottom resident, and I have to agree, in raw power and for his size, he's number one. The copepod, the creature that Plankton is based on, obviously lacks any form of defense and has extremely low HP, being easily defeated by
You know what's crazy? Funny enough, canonically in SpongeBob, Plankton is simultaneously the dumbest and smartest in the room. I'll never forget that one joke where they were like, people who are loud, something, fuck. It's like people who are wrong get loud or something like that, and this nigga yells, correct! Something like that.
Stray blows that weren't even directed at him.
Dumbass.
The copepod's best stat would be stealth, which helps Plankton in a lot of his efforts to invade enemy bases, but also frequently ends up hurting him when he's trampled on because he was stepped on by a player that didn't detect him. One special ability I don't see mentioned in the show is the copepod's team strategy with the bacterium Vibrio cholera, which causes cholera, a damage over time effect that has scored countless wins against entire settlements of human players.
Oh, Plankton could do damage. Bikini Bottom would be fucked.
While all three of these rank about the same on my tier list, I think it's safe to say that the lobster would win most frequently in a duel with the other crustaceans. But how about crab versus plankton? Countless times, Mr. Krabs is depicted defeating Plankton in battle, but only once is this battle a legal one rather than a physical one. And while I generally agree with the show's depiction of the physical battles, I can't really comment on how a battle would play out if it took place in a courtroom.
Who is the man in the suit?
Gotta be quicker than that.
Hi, my name's Itzmelon, and you're watching TSO Bald, aka TSO Bad Anime Takes, aka TSO Sade!
At the bottom of B tier, we have the Starfish build. The Starfish build is one of those builds
Hey, Patrick's in B tier, ladies and gentlemen. We'll take that. Okay, Pat. We'll take that. Good shit, Pat.
which spends very little evolution points leveling its stats, instead pouring all of them into extremely unique abilities. Their first ability is their Suction Cups, an ability they share with the Cephalopod faction. This gives them an extremely strong grip, granting them almost total immunity to knockback moves, and making their own grab attacks borderline impossible to mash out of. That second effect combos nicely into their second ability, their Extendable Stomach. This unique acid-based grapple attack deals devastating damage to anything it succeeds in catching. It bypasses armor and can defeat enemies far larger than the Starfish given enough time. However, it's got a lot of startup lag, so the Starfish needs to make sure it's got a secure grip on the target. This ability makes the Starfish one of the best anti-tank builds in the game, since they can pry open the armor of builds like the Clam and Scallop, and then inflict toxic damage, basically melting them from the inside with acid.
Damn, so Patrick's just doing Larry the fuck dirty, huh?
The Starfish's final and perhaps most impressive ability is their HP regeneration, which is stronger than any other health regen perk in the entire game, being able
normally, but there's some piece of shit sponge in the neighborhood. That nigga don't die.
to completely regenerate their HP from attacks that would spell game over for most other builds. As impressive as the Starfish's abilities are, its stats leave a lot to be desired, having an intelligence level near 0 and a mobility level on par with that of a snail. But in the right player's hands, the Starfish build can go much further than you might expect. Next on the tier list is the Sponge build, the easiest creature to play in the entire game.
SpongeBob B tier. I thought SpongeBob would be F tier because he's literally just a sponge. Let's hear it.
Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a fan of the Sponge build since it's a build catered towards the playstyle of literally AFKing.
Yeah.
Sponges gain XP by filter feeding and thus don't require any decision making or active attention at all to do well. Sponges have a mobility, attack, stealth, and intelligence stat of 0. They don't move, hunt, think, or hide from their enemies.
Right.
They just sit there and accumulate free XP from the debris in the water. Since they have 0 ability to react to attacks from enemy players, you'd think they would be easy pickings for everyone, and not fare well at all in the current meta. Normally this would be the case, however sponges are worth negative XP to most other builds, because they've incorporated tiny shards of glass into their bodies that damage players trying to feed on them.
Oh shit.
Some sponges
That's
also
why
have
that
an
Flats nigga got fucked up.
toxic debuff active, lowering the incentive to attack them even further. Some builds, like the Sea Turtle, have resistance to these sorts of countermeasures, and can derive some benefit from attacking sea sponges, but even then, their efforts are better spent on more high-value targets.
You should do this with Finding Nemo, that'd be funny.
Like jellyfish, snails, and seaweed. So in summary, sponges are upper mid-tier because they simply aren't worth the effort to fight, and their ease of gameplay means they pretty much always succeed in the reef meta.
There's like several games, someone mentioned Metapod, there's several games that there's too many references. I'm gonna move on. Comment below, what is a boss mode fight, or really a side quest fight that in your favorite game you just, no. Subscribe for more random tangents that have nothing to do with the video.
Not exactly a build I'm excited to sing the praises of, but I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't fairly assess them. In A tier, we've got the Octopus build. The Octopus is a hybrid between a stealth-based build and an intelligence-based one, having exceptionally high levels in both stats. They've got the shapeshift and color change ability that lets them get the camouflage stealth bonus in just about any environment, and their intelligence lets them solve problems using tools and learn new skills by observation. Disappointingly, in the show, Squidward isn't really shown to use the color change ability much. Another thing not shown in the show is that every octopus is at least somewhat venomous. Venom is a powerful tool for taking down prey, and since even a single bite can deal the venom effect for massive damage, Venom is also quite effective for pressuring attackers to steer clear. Their suction cups give them a powerful grip, and to be perfectly honest, the octopus is essentially a superior version of the Starfish.
Crap.
In addition to having suction cups, multiple arms, regenerative abilities, and venom, the octopus build also gets access to tons of high-level abilities like tool use, shapeshift, and inkjet. The Starfish does have one advantage over cephalopods, in that its lifespan is significantly longer.
Damn.
The top tier resident of Bikini Bottom is the pufferfish.
Oh, I didn't even think about Miss Puff. Yeah, pufferfish ROP.
Fish build is a variant on the basic fish class that spends all of its points unlocking not one, but 2 separate high-level defensive abilities and 1 offensive ability. Those being the Spike Ball and Neurotoxin on defense, and Armor-Piercing Beak on offense. The Spike Ball ability deals damage to the attacker whenever they connect a physical strike on you, and switching to the ball stance also makes bite and grab attacks less accurate against you. This ability is great for countering most of the common threats in the reef meta, and its only drawback is that it reduces the pufferfish's speed while it's active. The pufferfish build doesn't really care about losing speed, since it doesn't really rely on speed for escaping or attacking, so it's a great trade. Its second defensive ability, Neurotoxin, ensures that builds in higher weight classes.
What nature subtracts speed and buffs attack? what nature is Mrs. Puff?
Can't just swallow it whole without risk too. The Neurotoxin would paralyze any player who actually managed to get past its first line of defense. Honestly, having 2 separate measures of defense is a bit overkill, but considering the pufferfish manages to also have a solid offensive capability too, I won't knock it too much.
Brave, yeah.
Speaking of, the pufferfish is another extremely effective tank buster build. It has teeth that absolutely destroy armor, meaning defensive builds like the clam, crab, and snail get demolished in matchups against the pufferfish. This impressive blend of defense and offense makes the pufferfish one of the best fish builds in the game, in my opinion, and easily the top tier of Bikini Bottom. It's no wonder Mrs. Puff is shown bodying basically everyone in the show. Hopefully now you've got a good understanding of the Bikini Bottom meta.
Mrs. Puff has slow start. That was actually really fun. I like that. Let's do that again. Yeah, do that again. Different show, TierZoo. Always fun to have TierZoo videos on the channel. We got to make sure we're not turning into Sage Geographic at times, though. So if you guys think, where was the TierZoo last week? Yeah, we can try to do once a week type shit. But take care, stay blessed. Next. Because I can't afford to stop working.